Chapter 1: Dreams and Tigers. Once upon a time when tigers smoked pipes. How do I begin to tell one story when one story begins with two? She squeezed the word out of her lips, her bright white teeth playing peekaboo. Horangi. I'd asked my mother the Korean word for tiger after her story was done, moving my mouth to make the same shapes as her mouth did, trying to catch the earthy, invisible sounds falling out of it. As a child, I did everything I could to imitate my mother. I used to study her slender brown hands, comparing them with mine. I liked to point at the tiny freckle below my right thumb, and then at her darker freckle in the same spot, a sign that I could become like her. I learned to laugh loudly the way she does, mouth wide, eyes watering, and hand fanning our faces, as if joy is a fire that can be tamed. Outside of a few words and phrases, we didn't speak Korean to one another when I was young. However, the language has always pulled at me like a map that promises to show me the way home. I can pick it out in a busy street. I know the curves and movements of its sound. I'm convinced it rests deep within me, asleep and tangled in the beating muscle fibers of my heart. It was there in my earliest memories, pressing into my bones and ligaments, speaking straight through my mother's thoughts, mouth, and body, helping form my innermost parts. It was the language she used when she fed me and comforted me, when she was affectionate with me, and when she was most angry with me. It was the language of her womb, my first home. In college, I enrolled in a beginner's Korean course. I showed up for class and burst through the doors with my head high. The 4 other students in the class were huddled together, their desks pulled into a misshapen circle, talking and laughing in Korean. They were already fluent. I'd hoped learning the language would bring me closer to home, but instead I sat in that class for a week, mute and foreign, wondering why I'd been so audacious as to think I could learn my mother's tongue. The other students would get their easy credit, and I would give up on trying. I dropped the class. When I called my mom and told her about it, she was apologetic at first. "Aigo," she said, trying to simultaneously comfort and patronize me. "I should have taught you more when you little." She kept going, like a song, reaching its crescendo. "But you're so stubborn. Even when you baby, you don't listen and don't want me to speak Korean. You only speak English. Just like the peas I feed you when you baby, you spit it all back out." Finally, she reminded me that going to Korean school, like the other Korean kids, would have been hard for me. "You're different than other Korean kids. Other Korean kids already know how to speak and have both Korean mommy and daddy to talk to at home. You only have me, and you're so soft, and we move all the time." I remember the year I covered the wall of my room with Teen Bop magazine pictures. My mom would come in, shaking her head, making comments about how American I was. I would overhear her telling my dad how she regretted not teaching me Korean and how she wanted to enroll me in Korean school. But then she'd argue with herself while my dad listened. She knew the weight of bloodlines and the names thrown at kids like my sister and me, and she knew she wouldn't be able to shield us from those things. She didn't know that even if we didn't go to Korean school, those things would reach for us through geography and generations. For a long stretch of years, moving kept us busy enough. After I was born, we moved to Wisconsin, then to New York, then to Japan, then back to Santa Barbara, and then to Indiana. Conversations around our dinner table were always about the next place we were headed and the things we'd need to do to get ready to move there. Boxes, missing toys, new streets, and new ways of doing things. All of this was the norm for us. People and places were always slipping through my little hands, just like Korean words. With each new setting, I regularly checked to see if the freckle I was born with had stayed put. "Tell me the dream again, Mom. What happened to the tiger?" I studied her features, admiring her high, rounded cheekbones and the way her black hair framed the edges of her face, falling stiff and sharp at her collarbone, like the ends of a bristle hairbrush. She sighed at my curious insistence.